Claudia Webbe.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Higher Education Bill is a damaging non-solution to a non-existent problem that only exists in the minds of this reactionary government and its outriders. Trade unions led by the Universities and College Union rightly argue that there is no evidence to support the notion of a free speech crisis on campus caused by what the government deems to be intolerant or even oversensitive students and staff. Indeed, a 2019 policy exchange report which claimed to find evidence of a free speech campus crisis and which was cited repeatedly in the government's own white paper that informed much of this legislation has since been discredited. For instance, one of the report's main examples of no platforming at Cardiff University said did not happen at all as the event went ahead as planned. Democratically elected student unions who represent their student bodies, much like trade unions in the workplace, have long adhered to a no-platform policy which was formed in response to fascist groups that sought to exploit and subvert democratic platforms to promote hate, racism, fascism and Holocaust denial. What this government does not understand is that if someone is allowed to have free rein to espouse racist, hateful or discriminatory views without challenge, it can directly contribute to a culture where people of my class, my race and my gender no longer feel safe. Yet this no platforming is an incredibly rare outcome. Of the 62,000 requests by students for external speaker events at English universities in 2017 to 2018, only 53 were rejected by a student union or university, which is less than 0.1% of the total. Despite this, the government has created a self-serving narrative of an imagined free speech crisis to force through this authoritarian legislation. The bill fails to secure the ability of staff to speak out against their employers and would empower the Office for Students with appointments by the government to politically interfere in university and academic life, thus seriously imperiling academic freedom and democratic norms. The bill also narrows the legal definition of academic freedom in a way that is almost unprecedented in British law. As unlike rules on judicial review, Madam Deputy Speaker, there is no standing requirement, meaning that any person, any business, any campaign can sue universities. The threat to freedom of speech and academic liberties therefore does not come from the imagined free speech crisis. It comes from this government and this hugely disproportionate legislation. As the University and College Union rightly highlight, the much graver threats to academic freedom take the form of casualised employment, sustained attacks on the arts and humanities, insecurity of research funding, the PREVENT programme, government interference with academic research agenda, especially on decolonisation and targeted redundancies. More than 2/3 of researchers and almost half of teaching-only staff in the higher education sector are on fixed-term contracts. Widespread insecure employment strips academics of the ability to speak and research freely and curtails chances for career development. Indeed, the proposed compulsory redundancies across England's universities, including Leicester's, Liverpool, Aston and Chester, are very alarming. In Leicester and across the UK, university management must listen to the workers' demands and withdraw compulsory redundancies. The government must end the marketisation of higher education, which restricts academic freedoms, and instead encourage universities to work constructively with trade union representatives to protect higher education livelihoods across the UK. There are many aspects of higher education that need urgent redress. For too long, universities have been treated as private businesses and left at the mercy of market forces while top salaries soar and students pay more for less. Tuition fees have trebled and maintenance grants have been scrapped, leaving the poorest graduates with an average debt of £57,000. Education must be a universal right, not a costly privilege. The government must properly fund our universities, scrap tuition fees and cancel student debt, yet instead they are pushing through this legislation which solves none of the real issues facing the higher education sector and will instead compound the very problems that it claims it wishes to solve. And I'll end on this, Madam Deputy Speaker. The government must end its divisive culture wars, stop stoking the fires of hate, abandon the power grab over the higher education sector and commit to properly supporting the freedom, well-being and funding of all staff and students, and scrap altogether this free hate speech bill. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.